Our in-person services begin with a processional as we sing hymn 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We can't do a processional online. However, we thought maybe it would be worth scrolling through the pictures of people who are attending service today. Not everyone will be able to do that, but those of you that can, I would encourage you to check out who your fellow congregants are, the people sitting next to you in this virtual Zoom world. Please join me in singing hymn 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Have you broken your vow 1,000 times? Have you broken your vow 1,000 times? Have you broken your vow 1,000 times?
Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no terror but of despair. Come, yet come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, heart is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
Welcome to this Zoom space. I'm so excited that each of you are here to join us for worship together. I also want to extend an invitation for those who are not already on these platforms to sign up for our newsletter that comes out on Tuesdays and Fridays, and also to join our Facebook group, which you can find by searching First Unitarian Universalist Society of Syracuse on Facebook. Now, before we begin our worship, I want to go over a point of Zoom etiquette, which is that it's best practice to mute yourself when you're not speaking while on Zoom. That way, the background noise of your life doesn't come in and take over all of our sound space. Also, it's good to be intentional about how and when you unmute yourself and speak, and also how and when you use other communication tools like the chat feature of Zoom. Now, come, let us worship together.
Good morning. We invite you to say our chalice lighting words printed on your screen. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Choose to Bless the World by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or to curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with this injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all of life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude, to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith. The life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life, welcoming you. None of us can save the world alone. Together, that is another possibility, waiting.
Good morning and welcome to Time for All Ages. This morning I'm going to share a story with you that's called Treehouse Rules. The treehouse was built on the congregation's grounds over 3 Saturdays in September, using donated lumber and the donated labor of the families who attended the church and other adults who wanted to help with the project. Even the kids got involved, especially those ages 10 and up, by pitching in and helping in any way that they could during the construction. And it was a fantastic place to be once it was done. With a window that faced the nearby playground, a rope ladder to climb up, and a slide to exit. While everyone was happy that the treehouse was there, after all of the planning and construction, it soon became a problem. When too many kids wanted to enjoy it all at once, their different ideas about how to use it came into conflict with each other. The younger kids got a thrill out of running races through it, hurriedly climbing up the rope ladder and rushing through the treehouse to race down and going down the slide on the other side over and over again, one after the other. But the older kids wanted to just hang out in the treehouse after the worship service ended, playing games like jacks and cards. One day, a second grader, racing by, interrupted the fifth grader's game of cards for the third time. That was it. A fight broke out, with name-calling, pushing, and some tears. Some adults demanded that the treehouse be off limits until the children learned to cooperate with each other. Other adults protested that their children had special rights to use the treehouse because they had helped build it. The Religious Education Committee had meetings about a policy for use of the treehouse. They were getting ready to report to the congregation's board of directors with their findings. Meanwhile, the minister considered bringing in a consultant from the district to address the conflict, which had now spread through the entire congregation. But while the adults were arguing, holding meetings, creating policies, something happened. The children, who had been temporarily banned from the treehouse, started talking to each other and looking for ways that they could all use the playhouse together. A few of them remembered the covenants they had created in their religious education programs the year before. They suggested a covenant could be created for how kids could use the treehouse. So they sat down and they talked about why they liked the treehouse and what made it fun. They discovered ways that they could all enjoy the treehouse in the way that they wanted to. They came up with a covenant which laid out how they would be in the treehouse and how they would respect others who were using the space. Just as the adults were starting a congregational meeting to adopt a policy for use of the treehouse, some church leaders looked out the window. They saw the children cooperating with each other and using the treehouse without conflict. A teenager was dispatched to the treehouse to discover what rules the participants had come up with. And when she reported back to the adults at the congregational meeting, the announcement came that the participants had created a covenant with one another. The adults were humbled. Some sheepishly glanced at their church covenant framed on the wall, hanging there and mostly forgotten. The congregational meeting was adjourned. The adults went on their way, reminded of the power of covenants, working together to find a solution, and the commitment of people in right relationship with each other, all because of the treehouse rules. So one of the things that I love about being a Unitarian Universalist that I think is really special and unique is our covenants. Our covenants are a way that we get to decide as a community how we want to be in relationship with each other. Gives us kind of a container, a way of being with each other that we all agree on and that we can refer back to. So when I am talking to people about Unitarian Universalism, I often talk about how important covenanting is in our community building and our relationships. And I'm really grateful for that piece of Unitarian Universalism.
Even though we are physically apart this morning, the work of this congregation is ongoing. We hope that you are able to support the work of this congregation. As always, you can send a check to the physical church address, but we also want to give you the opportunity to be able to support us online. You can text the word GIVE to 315-642-4038. You'll be asked for an amount, and you can direct giving as follows. Type in the $ with the amount, the number, and the word pledge to pay your current pledge. For example, $100 pledge. If you simply type in an amount, your donation will go to miscellaneous. The first time doing this, you will be directed to a link where you can set up your payment information. Pro tip, if you make it a recurring donation, you never have to worry about paying your pledge again. If texting is not for you, you can also pay online by visiting our home page, firstuusyr.org. Click the Give button at the top of the page, then click the Donate button to be redirected to PayPal, and then you can complete your donation through PayPal. As always, we thank you for your ongoing support of this community and its mission and vision. Our morning offering will now be celebrated.
From you I received, you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I received, you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you
Good morning. So I think I have shared this story before, but here is something funny or interesting about me. When I first met Jeffrey, who would later become my husband, he and I were learning about each other's families, and he told me that his uncle was a Unitarian Universalist minister. And I laughed at the idea of somebody being a Unitarian Universalist minister. After all, weren't UUs the folks who could believe whatever they wanted? And how could one ever be a local pastor if you weren't telling people what to believe? Well, then I met his uncle and had many wonderful conversations with him and learned a lot about what being a UU means. I learned a lot along the way, one thing being, be careful what or who you laugh at. The universe has a way of balancing things out. Now, we UUs are not a creedal religion, meaning we don't have a belief statement or a series of belief statements at the core of our faith that you must adhere to in order to belong. We often say that we believe in deeds, not creeds, which ironically could almost sound like a creed, but it is not. Carl Gregg is a UU minister whose writings I really enjoy. And in 2013, he published an article in Patheos. He put forth that the question, what do UUs believe, is a category error. It assumes that there must be a core belief to a religious movement. But we are an orthopraxy movement, not an orthodoxy movement. Orthopraxy meaning that there is a correct practice at the center of our faith, but not a correct belief. Now, does that mean that you can believe whatever you want as a UU? No, it does not. We have our 7 principles at the core of our faith. They are not statements of belief, but rather something like promises about how we will behave based on some shared values. And from Greg's article, he lays out 4 different ways of things we can't believe. You can't be a Unitarian Universalist and hold the view that God is an all-powerful determiner of everything that happens, he writes. Many of our Unitarian and Universalist forebears define themselves against such views of absolute divine sovereignty and predestination. Such views conflict with the cherished UU values, such as human freedom and individual responsibility. Second, he writes, you can believe many different perspectives about the afterlife or that there is no afterlife and find a comfortable place for yourself within UUism. But you cannot believe that there will be an eternal separation of the saved from the damned, in which the good are rewarded with eternal bliss and the damned are punished with eternal suffering. Such a view would violate our first principle, which proclaims the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Third, many individual UUs are drawn to one or more of our 6 sources for various personal reasons. And all manner of mixing the 6 sources is fine within the big tent of UUism, but you can't be a Unitarian Universalist and believe in one religion that encompasses the exclusive final truth for all times and places. Fourth, he writes, you can believe many different views about this world and even about the next world, but you cannot hold the view that salvation is to be found solely beyond this world. There is a long-standing tradition in Unitarian Universalism in valuing this world and this life, and that here and now really matter. Greg makes this statement, which I think is direct and often overlooked in our conversation about what we believe. As Unitarian Universalists, we cannot believe something that conflicts with freedom, reason, or tolerance. One reason this is really important to lay out is that often folks who state that as a UU they can believe whatever they like, well, that is really a dog whistle for I can behave whatever way I want to. A dog whistle for my individual freedom is more valuable than your individual freedom or the life of this community. And it just flies in the face of reason and tolerance. And it flies in the face of our principles. The first, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of each person. And the 7th, we believe in the interdependent web of life. So as a Unitarian Universalist, I cannot find what I believe by looking to the UUA and asking for a creedal statement that defines us. I must seek that answer on my own, hopefully within a covenanted community who hold me accountable and who will support me in my journey. This idea of covenant is so big for us. Covenant is the container that holds our community together. Each congregation, each community can have their own unique covenant. A covenant is a living thing. It is promises we make to each other about how we will be in relationship with each other. Covenants describe how we will get to a decision, but not what the decision is, or even if the decision is right or wrong. And all of this still begs the question, what do you, as a UU, believe? What is your faith statement? That thing that acts as a guiding star. One way of approaching this would be to answer the question, what is your UU elevator speech? An elevator speech is a short explanation of an idea about the time it takes to ride an elevator, somewhere between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. I suppose it depends on how long or large the building is. In our world, it is less about selling someone on UUism and more about getting each of us to focus in on what we believe. Because we UUs can be a little bit wordy at times. An elevator speech is longer than those 6-word memoir titles. You might have heard some of them. Memoir titles like, Out of Everyone, I Chose You. Found a New Mountain to Scale. Maybe art school was a mistake. Each year, balder than the last. I tried my hand at a 6-word statement on what I believe, and I came up with, This day, I will choose life. But elevator speeches can be longer than that. Reverend William Sinkford, a former president of the UUA, wrote this elevator speech, published in the UU World. The Unitarian side tells us that there is only one God, one spirit of life, one power of love. The Universalist side tells us that God is a loving God, condemning none of us, valuing the spark of divinity that is in every human being. So my version of what Unitarian Universalism stands for is this: one God, no one left behind. Reverend Sinkford managed to do an elevator speech and a 6-word statement. In our small group time this morning, I am going to ask you to share what might be your elevator speech about what you believe, or at least maybe the beginnings of it. One thing I know is that this elevator speech will change over time. Remember, I started my journey to Unitarian Universalism by laughing at it. I am a living example that life changes one, and one's belief change with that. But consider what is most important to you. Reason, faith, science, other humans, the environment, social justice, love, care, forgiveness, music, art, beauty. It is possible that you are at a place in your journey where you have more questions than answers. That is okay. We are a people who are on a journey, and sometimes we do not know what the destination is. What do you want to tell people about what is important to you and why it is important? And we need to remember that we are a heretical faith. John Borens, in his book A Chosen Faith, wrote, "Unitarian Universalists are neither a chosen people nor a people whose choices are made for them by theological authorities, ancient or otherwise. We are a people who choose," which is related to the ancient Greek word for heretic, which simply means to choose. To be a heretic is simply to be one who chooses for him or herself, as opposed to letting an external authority choose for you. So I leave you with this question. What is it that you choose this day? What is your guiding star? And how might you share that with those around you? In this time especially, people need you to share that with them. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. My name is Felice Killian Benigno. I was asked to share a little about why I will be supporting First UU this year by pledging. And when I was asked, it was in the time BC, before COVID-19 entered our awareness and affected our day-to-day lives in so many ways. I'd been planning to talk about the value of our presence here for me and others and the larger community, and how pledging is one way of supporting our staff, our physical home, and our community. I would talk about how the weekly services help me to take a break from the stuff that fills my regular week, to take a pause, to rest and reflect, reset, to refill, and how all of you remind me to pay attention to what is important and how to live our principles in everyday life. Thinking about how our lives are now only makes it even clearer to me how important it is that First UU continues to be a strong presence in our lives. Our staff continues to work providing guidance and services where we can come together, accommodating the demands of distance and safety that add so much extra to what they had already been doing. The additional challenges and efforts they need to make this happen remotely are greatly appreciated. We need to be together, however that can happen now even more. Our regular lives bring joys and accomplishments, but also challenges and sorrows. To be able to know that I am part of a community that cares for me and supports me and gives me the opportunity in which we can support each other is a gift that I value. And that's part of why I choose to pledge to financially support First UU, to ensure that this caring community remains as a presence of universal welcome in our community. I will be able to increase my pledge this year, and I ask anyone who can to do so, especially since some of us are facing challenges that may mean they may not be able to increase their pledge or even meet last year's pledge. Thank you all for the many ways that you support our life here together at First UU. I am glad and grateful to be part of this community. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.